the following major or salient features of Islam and the Quran. First of all, they could not live with the Quranic principle of وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. Allah says it is our will to favor those who are powerless in the world and then render them leaders and then render them the inheritors of this whole affair. This could not be reconciled with the upper class mentality of the Meccan opposition to the Prophet, which, because of the winning wave of Islam, declared its verbal agreement with the Quran and the Prophet. In fact, they could not see it that way. Another salient feature that they never could reconcile their psychologies to was the equality among the Muslims. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. This can't be. When people come from an affluent background and they fight for their affluence for a full generation, it's not going to happen that overnight or in a short period of time, as a class of people, they are going to give up all of these privileges, all of this wealth, all of these positions, and then become equal with everyone else. The Quran says about them, وَقَالُوا لَوْلَا نُزِّلَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ عَلَى رَجُلٍ مِّنَ الْقَرْيَتَيْنِ عَظِيمٍ. This is their opposition, that this Quran came to Muhammad. Why didn't it come to one of the two major figures in these two major societies? Coming to a person as humble, as down to earth, as without any status as Muhammad, they couldn't reconcile themselves to that. They couldn't reconcile themselves to the fact that this new message now belongs to the world. It should belong to them. They should have the major stake in it, the major share of it. What do you mean? These ayat, إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ لِلْعَالَمِينَ وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. All of these Quranic ayat about Al-Alameen, this did not cross their heart and dwell in it. They resisted this. And there's nothing, as much as Allah's Prophet and the committed Muslims around, as much as they wanted to help them, help themselves, the concept of al-mu'allafa qulubuhum is to try to help them help themselves. They don't want to help the shaitan against them. So they were forthcoming. They had open hands. They tried to accommodate them. But these people were you can't accommodate them. So they lived on with this. Now, we say Muawiyah not only is a king, but he is also a baghi. Now, this word, of course, doesn't mean very much to people who don't know what it means. A baghi means someone who transgresses, who intrudes, who offends. This is basically the gist of this word. And where does this come from? It doesn't come from scholars reconsidering and restudying Islamic history. It comes from an integral part, an undeniable part of the first generation of Muslims. And it goes like this. Ammar ibn Yasir, whose father or grandfather had originally come from Yemen to Mecca, married there, had a son. The grandfather's name was Amir, the son's name was Yasir. Yasir got married in Mecca to Sumayyah, who both of them come from what is called the lower classes of society. And they had a child by the name of Ammar. And when Allah's Prophet opened up this Islam to the people of Mecca, Ammar and Sumayyah and Yasir were one of the first to have become committed to Allah and His Prophet and supportive of Allah and His Prophet. They had to support him when there was no power. Allah's Prophet at this time and the few who were his followers and his companions, these people had to endure torture. And Ammar was one, and his family was one of the units that was supportive of Allah's Prophet in Mecca, who had to endure the hardest times. Now listen to this. Because they came from a lower class, they were persecuted and tortured by the class right now that is around Muawiyah. But at that time, they were out and out mushriks, die-hard opponents of Allah and His Prophet. So they took Ammar to the fiery desert, and they would lay him down. Imagine this, temperatures of around 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And they lay his body on the sand of the desert. And to torture him more, they would lay his body on rocks that were heated by this very hot temperature. And what did the Prophet of Allah do? Of course he knew this was going on. He would go to him and he would try his best to relieve him, even though there's nothing he could do except be there and try to give him moral support. And the Prophet's statements about Ammar are registered for anyone to review and think about. Allah's Prophet said to him, يا نار كوني بردا وسلاما على عمار كما كنت بردا وسلاما على إبراهيم. This is a caring leader. This wasn't a person who was locked up somewhere in a mansion or hiding somewhere away from his followers. He was out there. Wherever they were, he was to be found. Even if they were being tortured, Allah's Prophet was with them. O fire, be bardan wa salaman, a soothing effect and a calming effect